to reject truth. Someone says, to choose to reject the truth is the offense. And there is something in that sentence that rings like a bell struck too hard. True in tone, perhaps, but cracked in implication. Because we know this much, if we have listened even once to the deeper chambers of being, you cannot offend the infinite. You cannot bruise eternity. You cannot insult the vastness that gives birth to stars and breathes tides into motion. But you can, very quietly, very efficiently, draw a net around your own awareness. You can tighten it strand by strand until movement feels dangerous and stillness feels like death. The offense, if we insist on using that word, is not against God. It is against your own capacity to see. People, of course, can be offended, or, more accurately, they can permit offense to take residence within them, if they were never taught the art of governing the mind. Offense is not a force that attacks from the outside. It is a door left unlocked. And most were never shown where the hinges were. They were told what to fear, what to defend, what to shout down, but not how to stand in freedom beyond the reach of insult. There is freedom beyond offense, but it is rarely taught, because freedom does not organize well into hierarchies. The Hebrew word we translate as sin did not mean moral depravity, nor did it drip with malice. It meant to miss, a misstep, a misalignment, to miss the mark, like an arrow that fell short or drifted wide, not because the archer was evil, but because something in the stance, the breath, the aim was off. And what follows a missed mark? Not eternal punishment, but correction, clarity, a chance to adjust the angle of the arm, the set of the feet, the focus of the eyes. Sin was never an indictment of worth. It was an invitation to realign. It was later, much later, amid Roman legalism and systems obsessed with control, that the word hardened into offense, into guilt deserving of torment. Law replaced guidance, fear replaced discernment, and suddenly, missing the mark was no longer a moment of learning, but a crime against heaven itself. An extraordinary distortion, considering heaven never asked to be defended this way. It is remarkably easy to miss the mark when you are not paying attention to the truth in your own heart. Ink on paper may be someone's truth, but how does it feel to you? Does it warm the chest? Does it soften the jaw? Does it breathe? Or does it tighten the gut and sharpen the teeth, urging you to draw lines and choose enemies? How do you know if you've read a bad book? Not by how authoritative it sounds, not by how old it is, but by how you feel when you close it. Some feel righteous, some feel small, some feel afraid, some feel justified in cruelty, and others, quietly, feel less alive than they did before they opened it. To cling too hard, to wrench too tightly, to bear down until the hands ache. Truth does not require white knuckles. If they will not hear your truth, it was said, kick the dust from your feet and leave them in peace. Not slam the door, not curse the house, not return with an army of arguments, just leave in peace. There is no profit in arguing with someone who is not listening. There is no awakening that arrives by way of screaming. When emotions boil over and retch forth, what is being released is rarely true. It is pressure. So the question returns patiently every time. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be free? If you must shout for someone to hear your truth, then they do not want to hear it. And that is not a failure. It is information. When someone does not want to hear what you carry, the most loving thing you can do is leave them in peace. Not because your truth is weak, but because awakening does not follow a single map. The path looks different for everyone. It always has. Many people repeat words they were taught, precisely as they were taught, without ever touching the roots beneath them. They speak echoes, not meanings. And so few know the origin of the words they wield with such confidence. How many atheists were birthed from Christianity? And why do you think that is? Some say the Bible is clear, but if it were, there would not be over 45,000 denominations, each convinced the others missed something essential. Missed the mark. Some of the strictest believers argue endlessly over what is or is not a sin, while missing the point so thoroughly that the argument itself becomes the misalignment. Is it a sin to eat shellfish? Or, as the Hebrew word suggests, an abomination? To eat sea bugs, is it a sin? Is it truly a sin to wear garments of mixed fabrics? And what did that mean in an ancient economy where fabrics signified tribe, trade, and ritual, not fashion? Context has not merely faded with time, it has been buried under certainty. Meanings shift, languages breathe. Words that once carried practical or symbolic guidance harden into moral weapons when stripped of their soil. And many of these sayings meant something very different 500 years ago, let alone 2,000. There are denominations that publish textbooks for children that completely erase the existence of dinosaurs, despite the evidence etched into the bones of the earth itself. Is it an offense to ignore that truth? Perhaps. But it feels a far greater misalignment to plug one's ears to the suffering of another, or worse, to bear down upon them with what one claims is truth, without having researched it deeply, parroting what was handed down without digestion. Have you ever played the telephone game? Have you ever played it with a liar? How would you know? Perhaps only by listening to the feeling in your body when the message arrives. Ink on paper is not eyewitness account. It is ink on paper. And you can only go so far with anything depending on your willingness to feel it, to test it against the resonance of your own being. Truth is not true because it is written. It is true because it awakens clarity, compassion, coherence. The words themselves are not the truth. They are vessels, relics of moments long gone, pointing towards something that must be lived, not recited. What matters is what those words evoke in you. I will not give my allegiance to someone's proclaimed truth when I know they do not know its origins, when they speak from fear, when they confuse dominance with authority. Since when has fear opened anything? Since when has fear included? Since when has fear carried the deep, spacious mercy of love? Fear not. Be not afraid. Be afraid not. These phrases echo across millennia, across cultures, across revelations, and still people say, fear God, unaware that the word translated as fear, yirah, meant reverence, awe, trembling wonder. The kind that stills you, not shrinks you. The kind that expands the chest rather than collapsing it. And yet, even now, people perpetuate cold, breathless echoes of the past, echoes forged in times of scarcity and limited choice, insisting that confusion today is a moral failure rather than a natural response to overwhelming options. They say men are meant to lead, but what of the men who are not natural-born leaders? What are they called today? Beta? And is that said with tenderness or with shame? Shame and guilt, those twin instruments, have been institutionalized as virtue in many systems, particularly within Christianity. Hence the phrase, I am a worthless sinner, as though humility required self-annihilation. But if sin meant missing the mark, then worth was never in question, only alignment. And what of the women who are natural-born leaders? Are they meant to deny the truth in their own hearts? To quiet their insight, suppress their clarity, close their mouths when they can plainly see a way that would help? The healthiest thing a being can do is lead where they are strongest. To force submission where there is capacity to guide is not order, it is distortion. And distortion breeds resentment, confusion, and quiet despair. We live in a world of constant motion, hustle, bustle, grab, run, run, run. Don't slow down too much, because if you do, you might see what you were rushing past. And by the time you reach 30, you're still here, wondering what you were so desperate to outrun. Yes, they say men are meant to lead, women are meant to follow and submit. Yet, churches tell women how to dress, warning them they might tempt the boys. You might lead them astray, as though responsibility dissolves in the presence of attraction, as though men were animals without agency. But I have seen a woman hold food before her dog's face, waiting patiently until she gives the signal. Training, as it were. If a dog can learn restraint, what does it say about the failure of guidance when a man is told he cannot? Where is the discrepancy? For millennia, people have attempted to excise the divine feminine from the notion of God, but she always returns. because you cannot take a scalpel to the infinite. You can only turn away from your own radiance for a time, because eventually all illusions must fall, like a sand castle melting back into the beach at high tide. The ocean of life does not rage. It simply says, it's time to wake up. To reject truth is not a crime. It is not a damnation. It is a narrowing, a closing of inner windows, a dimming of the lamp within, and even that is temporary. Truth does not punish those who turn from it. It waits, eternally, in the throne of love, the heart. In other words, the kingdom of God. It waits in the warmth of the heart when something rings clear. It waits in the quiet discomfort that signals misalignment. It waits in the gentle question that returns again and again. Does this open me, or does it close me? The infinite is not offended by your confusion. It is not threatened by your questions. It is not diminished by your doubt. But you may, for a while, forget how vast you are. And even that forgetting is not the end, only the moment before remembering. And I say, don't let me tell you what to believe. Don't let me tell you what to do. That is between you and your own heart. But I say, remember this, if nothing else. To kick the beams of one's belief out from under them without the mercy of offering a soft place to land is not compassion. It is not love. It is not mercy. And if they will not hear your truth, kick the dust from your feet and leave them in peace. Though I will never plug my ears to your suffering. Praise love and pass the compassion. God bless your divine presence.